get all the other stuff out of the way, all the, I call it BS, which could stand for one thing, but belief systems, right? We're all trained up in certain kinds of paradigms and belief systems by people who are very well-meaning, who thoroughly believe what it is that they're passing on, and sometimes it's just not right.
Yeah.
And so you got to take the time, the self-reflection, right? That's the spiritual awakening.
Welcome, world. Welcome, family, to another episode of the EL2A Podcast. I'm your host, Jamie Gilmore Jr., and we don't have Mr. Military Man, and we don't have the Rocket today. It's just me and a special guest today, all right? So the special person that I have with me today, I met some years back, all right? When I met this person, I went over to her establishment, and I felt like when she spoke to me, the heavens were speaking. I said, like, the voice, the elegance, the presence that she had, it was peace. Like, I felt like at peace. So we have the lovely Miss Cindy Cotto Grimes here with us today. How you doing, Cindy?
I'm doing great.
Look at that. Y'all hear that? Listen to it. Listen to that. But I appreciate you for joining us today. We have a wonderful conversation to have. We just did an experience that we're going to enlighten the people on. But first, I just want to, thank you for being here with me.
Yeah, and thank you for asking me.
For sure.
And thank you for that beautiful introduction. I'm not sure I've been introduced quite that way before.
Look at that. I'm glad to be the first. All right. All right, but stop what you're doing right now. All right. So make sure you like, subscribe, and comment. All right. We always have a wonderful guests, wonderful conversations. All right. So make sure you like, subscribe, and comment so you do not miss out on this information, the EL2A Podcast. All right. But to get into it, I really want to start. So I'm starting a conversation with you, I don't even know what to say, who you are, what you do. So if someone was to ask you, Miss Cindy Grimes, who are you? How would you answer that question?
Who am I? I do a lot of different things.
Mm-hmm.
I do a lot of different things, but who I am probably in my heart of hearts is a peace builder.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Peace, what does that mean? Break it down for me.
Break it down. I'm most interested in, number one, experiencing it. Like, what does it feel like to be at peace and to be okay inside of myself and to be that presence for other people and then teach them how to do the same thing.
Yeah. So I like it. So most of the time, well, let me get into before I answer this question. So you say you do a lot of things. So if you can just spread across all the 20 things that you do, or tell us what do you do? Thank
you. Well, I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a grandmother. Also the spiritual director at the Center for Spiritual Living in Ocala. And I am the co-founder of an organization called Circle Up Center for Practical Peace Building.
Okay.
And I'm on the advisory board for Cut Difference. And several other things that are escaping me right now.
No, it's all good. It's all good. When you think about all the things that you do, the space that you're in, we could say entrepreneurship, we could say all these different things. A lot of people, when they work in spaces like you, like, I believe your goal is to bring healing to people, if I had to sum it up and say what me as well. I have a specific group of people that I work with, but a lot of the things we get into, it comes from our pain. Our pain guides the work that we do. And I say that when you think about the work that you're in, when you're trying to heal someone, how did your life story lead you to being here, to wanting to do this work?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we'll go back to the early days. I'm the oldest child in my family. My dad was a police officer, and my mom worked several different things she did. But my dad came from a family of 15 kids. My mom was her and her brother. And when my mom was young, her mother had mental illness and father was out of the picture. So my mother was raised in foster care and orphanages. And then I had my dad on the other side who had this great big family. And so when I was 8 years old, we had moved from New York City to the suburbs in Long Island. And my parents decided they were going to take in foster children. So we started with 2 kids and then we had 4. But the first one that we brought was my sister. And we ended up adopting 2 of them. So my sister, I picture, as I think about this, an 8-year-old kid, we're going to pick up this child from social services, and she was a year and a half. She had a broken femur, so the thigh bone.
Yeah.
And it was a spiral fracture, meaning somebody did one of these and snapped it. She had cigarette burns in her skin. She had patches of hair missing. And I'm holding this baby in the backseat of the car. We're talking, 1971.
Yeah.
There was seatbelts, but there wasn't car seats, none of that. And I'm holding this baby and just thinking of the horror of what this kid has been through.
Mm-hmm.
And then we brought home her brother, her half-brother. And he was born, of a mom that had been drug addicted. Father was in prison. Just to hear these stories, at 8 years old was like horrific.
Sure.
And then we brought home 2 more kids.
Wow.
And those kids were a brother and sister. I don't know what their circumstance was, why they came to live with us, but I knew it had to be pretty bad,
Mm-hmm.
and they ended up going home to their parents, to their mother. And as tough as it was when that young girl, she was closer to my age than my little sister was. But I went from, it was just me and my brother, being like the princess. I had my own room and stuff. And now I got to share a room with somebody. And this kid came into our house. Now, did I mention my dad was a police officer? Yes, right.
Mm-hmm.
So my dad is this, tough Latin, like you don't mess with him, big man. And this young girl came into our house and she climbed up the apple tree in the backyard. And my dad said, "Come on down from the tree, Marianne." And she said, "F you." Only she said it, right?
Yeah.
I was like, my eyes are like this. Who is this monster talking to my dad like that? And, what is this going to be? So anyway, we ended up sharing a room.
With the monster.
With the and her little brother, and it was all kinds of drama, in our house. But I was very protective of all of them, because I was the oldest.
Yeah.
And so when it came time for them to go home, I was traumatized because I thought whatever happens to have them have to come live with us, was it okay? Was it over? Was it done? Like, how do I know she's going to be all right? And we never heard anything about them again.
Like till this day?
To this day, yeah. But the first 2 that we got, my parents ended up adopting them.
Uh-huh.
And so it's funny, I've been thinking about this a lot the past few days, because our theme for Centers for Spiritual Living, which is where I'm a minister, is raise your voice.
Mm-hmm.
So I've really been thinking about what that means. Raise your voice. And I think we get so many mixed messages. At least I did. Mm-hmm. In the time I grew up, kids were meant to be seen and not heard. Mm-hmm. And you better not raise your voice. Yeah. You don't raise your voice, especially to adults.
For sure.
But then I was the oldest, so I was charged with watching my younger siblings. And so I had to speak then, right? I was supposed to keep them in line, number 1. And number 2, tell my parents when they were out of line. Yeah. So do you raise your voice or do you not? And then in school was a whole other thing, right? Because we're taught, especially girls, you don't make disruptions, you don't speak loud, you don't raise your voice to anybody. But I was a really good student. Mm-hmm. And so I was up like front and center a lot of the time. So teachers kind of liked when I would raise my voice there, but my classmates didn't.
Yeah.
Right? So there was this thing about being seen and not wanting to be seen and all of that. Fast forward to going to college, and I was a psychology major, and I went into social work. And that early experience of having the foster kids and my mom being in foster care, I gravitated toward that. Mm-hmm. So I became, I think my first big job was at the state attorney's office, and I was a victim advocate. So I was working with different crime victims, mostly domestic violence and sexual assault, child abuse.
You're saying you got into that work strictly from your experience as a child.
Pretty much.
Not wanting that for...
Exactly, not wanting it for other people. Yeah. So I did that for a while. I did child protective investigations, where you make a call to the abuse hotline and somebody answers the phone and then you going out with your little badge like, hello,
Yeah.
we have a report that you've been, that you've beaten your child or whatever it is,
For sure. So with those experiences, I do want to point out the one with your voice. I would love to get your opinion right now because we live in a different world right now. So the thing that you just mentioned, the voice thing, knowing, we came up in a time, even myself came up in a time where you didn't have a voice. You did as I say. And,
exactly.
Now in this world, how do you feel about that? As a person that's in the business of healing and having people be whole, do you think that the world that we live in now is better for a child to be able to voice their opinions or have a say so? Do you think that is the healthy way?
I absolutely.
Okay.
I think it's certainly healthier than, how I came up. I mean, my parents did their best, but there was so much pain and there was so much stuff going on and there was no place to voice it. In that day when we brought those kids home, there was no counseling, there was no extra services, and my parents did the best they could, but my dad grew up in that family with 15 kids. And my grandfather ruled with an iron fist. There was no questions. There was no discussions. You do this, that, or the other. And consequences were swift and they were harsh, and there's a lot of pain behind that, And so I think a lot of us carry that kind of pain, Discipline when I was growing up was physical also, and I grew up okay. I grew up all right, but I don't think it's because of it. I think I grew up all right in spite of it.
Explain that. I was about to leave it. So, so you don't think the discipline is what shaped the behavior?
I don't think the way the discipline was done was to my benefit. Let me put it that way.
Okay.
A physical discipline.
Okay.
Right.
So
discipline. I believe in discipline. I believe we need discipline. We need accountability. But there are ways to do it that are more beneficial than others.
So spanking not good.
Like when I raised my kids, I didn't.
You didn't whoop your kid?
I did. I think I probably spanked one of my kids. I have 3 kids. Yeah. And my middle child, my daughter, was my most headstrong. Okay. She was my big challenge. And I definitely spanked her a couple of times.
Okay. So
but it was more because I didn't know what to do. Because I wasn't, I didn't have the background. I wasn't really prepared, for how to handle a child like that. My boys, I didn't never have to do that. And my husband never raised a hand to them either.
Wow. So I think this is a good educational moment. So because we do it kind of different. We work with a lot of families and a lot of parents are navigating those waters. They come to us asking us those same questions. It's like, what do I do? Do I beat them enough? I don't know what to do now. Or should I beat them? I don't know what to do. So in a state of confusion. So with your expertise, what would you tell that parent that is looking for ways on how to build that level of structure, that discipline, that kid, and maybe whooping is all they know? What would you tell them?
Well, it's funny what we do is as adults and as parents, we tell these kids, don't do this, don't do that. And then we turn around and we do it. You don't want your kids hitting each other. You don't want kids getting into physical fights in school and that sort of thing. But yet, when we bring them home, the discipline is spanking. It's beating them, or they're going to go to the principal's office and get paddled.
Yeah.
So that for me doesn't make sense. That's saying do what I say, not what I do, and kids don't go for that.
Yeah.
There has to be some integrity. So for parent, that's going through it, there were times I had my own business too for a while. I started Family Times magazine when my kids were little.
Okay.
Also to help prevent abuse, neglect, all that kind of stuff. And I worked from home. And there were times when I had to go in my room and go into the bathroom in my room and close the door because mommy needed time out. Because I'm going to lose my temper here. Yeah. And I don't want to do something to my kids that I'm going to regret later.
Wow.
Right? So I would go and take a time out and breathe and find some other way to discipline them. The other thing I would say is that you have to pick your fights. You got to pick your battles. When my daughter was She was maybe 3 years old. I put this outfit on her and she didn't like it. And she started having a fit. I said, look, we're going out the door anyway. That kid screamed from Ocala to Tampa over that outfit. And I thought she was going to stop, and she didn't stop. It just kept on and on. Literally, she did. She
ain't whip. You give her one of them?
I just kept thinking she's going to fall asleep. You know, she'll cry it out.
You gave her one of them hands, she'd have fell asleep.
She screamed. But, you know, it was a lesson for me. Like, it wasn't worth all that for her to wear that outfit. If she want to wear something else, wear whatever the heck you want. I'm not going to fight that.
Yeah.
But I did know that when she was at that age, you know, my husband still makes fun of me because she and I would get into these, you know, knockdown, drag out kind of things. And I say, man, I have to win. Yeah. I have to win. I have to win when she is 3, 4, 5 years old, or I'm going to be losing when she's 15. She has to know that I am the boss.
And you believe
this relation? Oh, yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes. 100%.
Yeah. So how is letting her wear what she wants to wear, or you having to leave the room and you go the timeout when they did something? How is that teaching them that you have to win?
Sure. Well, she would do, you know, they would have their timeouts too. But I had to have enough presence of mind that I'm not going to lose my temper enough that I hurt my kid.
Okay.
Right. So if you can't go into a room, you don't have the space, or you don't have the time, best thing is to just take a breath.
Yeah.
Right? Just stop and take a breath. You know?
Yeah.
And calm yourself.
Okay.
That's so much of what I do now, right?
Yeah.
Is just having to calm your own nervous system so that you can do what you need to do with a clear head.
Yeah. So when you say what you do today, how you just explained it, in a nutshell, because I know you're trying to bring healing to the world. So we have the Spiritual Life Center, and you have Circle Up, all these things. And the word that's coming to mind is spiritual awakening. Even when I say that, wasn't because we live in a woke world. Like, everybody has this new things that you go online, you flip up, everybody's being this spiritual coach and being this whatever. What is even spiritual awakening? What does that mean? When I'm saying what was that?
So I believe from my angle, my perspective, that we are all spiritual beings having a human experience, right? None of us brought ourselves here. I mean, yes, I drove here, right? But this experience, this life that we're living, you know, is like we came into it. Something brought us into this experience, right? And in this world, we have everything that we need. You know, we have, I mean, you know, food, the water. It's like, have you heard of the Goldilocks universe?
I have not.
Okay, so you know the story of Goldilocks and the three bears, right? So Goldilocks had the one bowl of porridge was too hot, the other one was too cold, and then there was the one that was just right. This planet where we live is just right. It's just right to nurture life, you know, as we know it. We can't live on Mars. We can't live any place else but here, you know? And so I believe that we have the capacity within ourselves to meet every challenge, to do everything it is that we came here to do, because I believe we all come here with a purpose. You know, so if you can get all the other stuff out of the way, all the, I call it BS, which could stand for one thing, but belief systems, right? We're all trained up in certain kinds of paradigms and belief systems by people who are very well-meaning, who thoroughly believe what it is that they're passing on, and sometimes it's just not right.
Yeah.
And so you got to take the time, the self-reflection, right? That's the spiritual awakening, to step back and say, now, is this true?
Yeah.
Is this true for me? Right? And those are the things that I study, like the universal principles. You know, what is it that is the same for all of us, whether you're 5 years old, whether you're black, white, gay, straight, Christian, Muslim, whatever. There are things that are common for all of us as human beings.
Yeah.
And that's where I focus my attention. That's where I study.
Yeah. So what's blocking most people from getting to, I guess, that level of spirituality where they understand what you just said, that we all have purpose? And like even what we're trying to do, we're trying to help these young boys understand that God put them here for a reason, that they have a design for their life. They just have to trust it and trust the process in a sense. And you have to, I always say there's two questions in life you have to answer. Who am I and where am I going?
And why am I here?
You know what I mean? So on that path of alignment, what do you think is stopping most people from getting to answer that question or to understand what their purpose is?
I think it's a few things. Number one, I don't think most people are even asking that question. It doesn't even occur to them. They're just here. And so many people are in survival mode, so it's, you go to school so you can get the job, so you can pay your bills. And, you just get on this hamster wheel of constant motion, and when I was raising my kids, I didn't have time to do that spiritual work like I'm doing now. Not in the same way.
Yeah.
Not in the same way. So time is a factor. It's also, I think, what the world tells you is important.
Mm-hmm.
We have people now, it's like the pinnacle of our culture and society is to be like a billionaire. Well, great. Now you have all this money. What you going to do with it?
Yeah.
And we're seeing that, it really is true that the love of money is the root of all evil.
Yeah.
Not the money itself. Not the money, because money is just a tool, but it is the love of money. Because people, what is it? I heard that money is to be used, right? Instead, people love money and use people, where they should be using money and loving people instead.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah. You mentioned time. So that's a big hindrance, time, lack of time. And you just said yourself, when you had children, you didn't have it
was challenging
to have that spiritual awakening. And we hear that every day. So to answer, to be the person that is pushing someone for this, but still understanding your experiences that you didn't even have that time. Mm-hmm. How are you helping the busy parent that is, I want to heal, but I don't have the time? Like, how are you helping, or how are you that balance that you may didn't have? How are you helping that person?
Yeah, the balance is that's another really all full of good questions. I have educated myself quite a bit in these kinds of areas, right? So understanding the benefits of, for example, just your breath.
Mm-hmm.
You may not have the time to go to an exercise class or to spend an hour or an hour and a half listening to a podcast or whatever, but you got 5 minutes that you can lay down, before you go to sleep at night, and practice breathing, go through your day, find something to be grateful for, right? Do just like you brush your teeth. There are practices that people do, just like brushing their teeth, where did I cause harm to another person today? Where was I short with somebody? Where did I disregard them? Where did I cut somebody off? And then how can I take that understanding and knowledge to do better tomorrow? Right? So forgiving ourselves. It's a practice that I think it's called Ho'oponopono.
Mm-hmm.
So it's taking that time to go through your day and say, what do I need to forgive? And what do I need to be grateful for?
Yeah.
Right?
I seen, I think it may have been maybe in the curriculum you sent me, but it stuck out to me. It says, I guess, like teaching people to come home to themselves.
Yeah.
So that stuck out to me. So when you say come home to yourself, I can interpret what that means, but I want to hear from, yourself. What does it mean when you're saying, I guess, if you're teaching someone or to come home to themselves?
Sure.
What does that
So
mean?
that's one of the first things. I have a curriculum that I've created that we teach out of Circle Up. That's like 12 different pieces of this conversation of what are the universal principles. So I think one of the universals that we have, regardless of where we come from, is this idea of home. Mm-hmm. Now, home means things for different people, but mostly what I'm looking at is what is home in its ideal.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, home is my safe place. Home is my happy place. Home is the place where people know me and love me, where I can be myself right? But home is different for different people. What is home for you?
I would say the same. Home is where the heart is.
Home is where the heart is.
Home is where the heart is, where my loved ones are, where a place I go to find peace.
Yeah.
Yeah, a place I go to rest.
Yes.
A place I go to get away from the world.
Yeah, to rejuvenate, right? Yeah, exactly.
But home isn't that to everybody.
It's not.
Home can be negative.
It's not.
Home can be a terrible place that I don't want to be.
That's right.
Home can be a place where I don't feel I'm loved. So how can you tell that person to go back home?
Yeah, well, that's part of what we teach, right? Is sometimes home isn't. I know that from deep in here, that home is not always a happy place for people.
Right.
But I think people have an idea of what that means for them. So then the thing is, how do we get back to that? How do we get to that sense of safety and being at home within ourselves, even if we didn't have that example? What would that be like?
Yeah.
And then it goes out from there. So what I want for myself is to always embody that sense of being home, so that when people are in my presence, they feel at home too. And they have that model for what that is. Yeah. And then they can go out and do the same for somebody else.
Yeah. Fair. You're again, all the hats that you wear, you minister, just all the different things that you do. You're seeing a lot of people, and burnout is real these days. There's a lot of people that's burning out, emotional strain, and just a lot of people that are just trying to figure it out and are getting tired. What kind of patterns are you seeing across the board when it comes to, I guess, burnout? Why are people burning out these days?
Yeah. Well, to answer that, I want to share something. Have you ever heard of the idea of the wounded healer?
Wounded healer.
The wounded healer. So that's, again, one of those universal kind of principles that no matter what culture you're in, no matter where you come from, there are certain models that we have of people. Like, every culture has the mother. Every culture has the king, the queen, the this, the that. Well, there's something called the wounded healer. And the wounded healer is the person who has gone through some hard time, through some difficulty. And that difficulty becomes their access to finding their passion and their purpose, right? So for me, growing up in the home that I grew up in caused a wound, in my heart, in my psyche, in my everything. But that wound then became my reason for being. I mean, it helped me tap into my reason for why I'm here. So I think everybody has some aspect of that wounded healer. You find it in people who are like AA mentors, for example, right? Or the nurse maybe whose father was blind growing up, or the social worker who was in foster care when they were a kid. Right. They use their pain as their access to their purpose. Yeah. So what I would say to somebody who's going through it right now is just keep on going. Keep on going. Remember that you are here for a purpose, and there is going to be a point where you get on the other side. As long as you don't pitch a tent and hang out in it. Yeah. Because a lot of people like to do that, right? Yeah. They feel victimized. They're always feeling like they're getting the short end, and they sit in that, and they marinate in that, and they stay victims their whole lives. Yeah. Instead of saying, I'm going to use my suffering for some purpose, right? Use your suffering, use your emotions, use your pain. Don't let it use you. You get to use it.
Do you believe the pain that we go through is a part of our plan, the plan for our lives? Like the hole that you say you felt at home, do you think that just was a part of that was what God had aligned for you, or that was just an unfortunate situation that happened?
I don't know. I mean, there's part of me that feels like some of these decisions maybe, or some of these things are kind of preordained, but maybe not. I don't know. Yeah. It's kind of like, you ever seen Forrest Gump?
Yeah.
Is life like
box of chocolates?
Yeah. Is it your destiny, or is it what you do with the things that happen to you?
Yeah. Yeah. I like it.
I do think though that some of it is, we kind of know ahead of time what it's going to be.
For sure. All right. So we did an experience just earlier.
Yes.
I want to get into that. So what I do want to do, I want to have you explain what just happened. So just before we got on here, I had a 11-minute experience, something that was new, and it was presented to me by Cindy. So I would like you to enlighten everybody on what I did, and then I'll talk about the experience that I experienced.
Sure thing. Okay. So the experience you had was with a device called the Roxiva.
Mm.
And the Roxiva uses light and sound to push your nervous system into different brainwave states. So you can experience really deep meditation, you can experience psychedelic states, you can experience that state that's kind of between being awake and being asleep, where you're half in, half out, where creativity happens. And so I was turned on to this technology through a therapist because I realized that I have a what you call a hypervigilant nervous system.
Okay.
Hypervigilant, I'm like always on, like ready to go.
That's what that means?
Yes. Yeah. Like, a startle reflex, it's part of your kind of survival mechanism.
Okay.
A little bit, because you got to be ready to move, you got to be ready for danger. Mm-hmm. And so that's part of what I teach too, right, is to get people out of that survival mode, but you have to understand what's happening to your body. Mm-hmm. So I found the Roxiva, and I started using that first to help myself to have that kind of neural reset and find out and feel what it really is to like totally relax. Right? Mm-hmm. Because what happens is our brain gets triggered. Something happens, and you've heard of fight, flight, freeze, right? So fight, flight, freeze is to keep you, healthy, to keep you well, to keep you surviving. The problem is that some people never turn it off. They're always at that ready to go, because there could be danger at any moment. And that's not healthy. That's not good for your body. It's not good for your mind. It's not good for it's not good for your relationships. Mm-hmm. So how do you turn that off when you've been hardwired to feel that way? And so that's why I got the technology to help give me that extra push so that I could get to that state of relaxation again without using medicines, or not that I have a problem with that. Mm-hmm. If somebody needs a medication to deal with their anxiety or their depression, that's what you need to do. You got to do that. I didn't want to go that route. So I think light is probably the healing modality of not just the future, but here and now.
Yeah. So even when I hear stuff like this, it's always that question, because again, like we have lights on us right now. It's a different, and I do think so for me, like the sun. I think the sun, get out in the sun, what they call like sun gazing, like that. I do feel those like a therapeutic measures. Today, the experience that I experienced, it was my first reaction was to resist. Because I like to be in control. Mm-hmm. And in that situation, I felt like I wasn't in control and I didn't know what was next. Until I got into a deep position of, okay, I can feel the pattern of what's going on. So I kind of got comfortable. And then I felt it get dark. Then it got dark on me. Then I was like, oh, then it knocked out of that. Now I'm like, what's next? Then I'm back like kind of where I was earlier. Now I'm a little squirmy. But overall, I can see, not saying I experienced it today, but I can see how that can be a measure of helping you align or get focused or silence. Mm-hmm. I can see how that can allow someone to reconfigure their brain and get on point, for lack of better words. Yeah. It's like be able to center focus and like, okay, and your ideas. Do you think that same technology that will work with kids as well?
That particular one, they advise to not use it before they're 18.
Okay.
There's other kinds of like neurofeedback devices, biofeedback that are useful for kids, for kids that have ADHD and, traumatic experiences and stuff like that, that can be used. But they don't advise the Roxiva for that. That would be more for the staff that would be working with the kids, so, to help them, like be in that place of peace and calm. And Yeah.
We got to get Brother Rory on it before he leaves.
Yeah, I should have started you on a maybe no more anxiety or something like that.
He talking about, no, man, I thought you would like that, man. Come
We
on.
put you in a psychedelic experience. So.
Oh, he talking about, he probably think he healed. He talking about he don't need it. He all healed. So thinking about the kids, when you are working with a young, so knowing that you couldn't use something like that with the kids, how are you bringing kids, healing kids, or helping a kid get to that center level?
Right. Yeah. So I started Circle Up in 2019 with a couple of friends, and the idea, it's kind of in the name. It's Circle Up Center for Practical Peace Building. So I'm not talking about trying to broker peace in the Middle East or in Ukraine or any of that, but peace, again, like starting here and then as it goes out, right, into your relationships. So the core of that for me is bringing people together in circle. So I've done this work with kids in middle school. I've done it with guys at the prison. I've done it with university professors, teachers, like all kinds of people, again, teaching universal principles. You bring people together in circle, and there's a few ground rules, like one person speaks at a time. Usually we're using some kind of a talking stick or something like that. And I have, just different questions that we go through. And it's not really a conversation. It's more like, it's one question, everybody's answering it, right? So you get a different perspective. For example, what does home feel like? What does home mean to you? Everyone in here is going to have a different answer for what that is. But what happens is it expands everybody's awareness of what that could mean. So depending on, what the questions are, the magic of circle, I think, is that you start to see yourself in other people, right? So even me sitting in the prison, I went to the men's prison thinking I was going to teach them something, and we sit in a circle, and the question, one of them I remember was, what does respect mean to you? So I had my answer, and every one of the men in that circle had an answer. And when that dude who was 350 pounds said, I used to think that I demand respect, but now I realize that I have to give it to get it.
That's powerful.
Oh, all right then, right? Yeah. And that sounds different coming from him than it did coming from me.
Yeah.
Right? So what happens is people see themselves, and it grows everybody's experience and everybody's possibilities. And even with kids, kids have, kids have all kinds of trauma. They have all kinds of experiences, and they can learn from each other and teach each other.
Yeah.
So it's not coming from the top down, from some authority figure up here. It's coming from their peers.
Yeah. What is your goal with this work? When we're sitting here, and again, I go back to our mission. Our mission is to guide young men to own their greatness. And, our goal is to be able to help a kid understand that their life has purpose, and understand the opportunities that are available to them. We feel that a lot of kids don't understand, first of all, who they are, like I said, and where they're going. And then even when they figure out where they're going, they only identify who they can be as like one thing, an athlete or these things. And we're trying to show them that it's more. When you think about yourself, like what is the goal? What's the long-term goal? What is your hope that in 5 to 10 years will happen through the work that you're doing?
Wow. I would love to see more people experiencing peace again in themselves, right? Feeling at home in their own skin, whatever that skin looks like, whatever their life is like, to be okay with themselves and to have compassion for themselves and have compassion for other people. And let's all like shine and be our best selves, like create a world where people feel like they can be their best selves, not have to be somebody else, not pretend, not put on airs or anything, but just really be who they are. Yeah. Not everybody wants to do the same thing. Not everybody loves the same thing. And all you've been shown that success is to be an athlete. You've never seen what it could be to fly an airplane or to travel the world or to do all these different things. You don't have there's no other context.
For sure.
Right? For sure. So we want to expand people's possibilities, people's worlds.
Yeah. Us as mentors. So with you have 4 mentors sitting in this room. When you're thinking about peace or helping someone find peace, what is something we can do this week or tomorrow to push one of our boys closer to being at peace, feeling peace, or knowing, experiencing peace?
I would say be that loving presence, be that home base, be that safe place.
Yeah.
And be able to listen. A lot of us, kind of like I said, when I went to the prison, I thought I was going to teach them something. They taught me a whole lot. I think what most people need and maybe aren't getting is somebody who actually listens to them.
Yeah.
One of the exercises we do in the workshop is just that. It's a listening, but it's a very conscious listening with a purpose. So if we're partners, we're set up here, and you're listening to me, I'm going to ask you to listen. And there's all training that goes along before this, but listen for unmet needs and listen for the feelings that are behind that. So when I'm talking, I'm sharing something with you, you're listening for my unmet needs and my feelings, and then reflecting that back to me. I can't tell you how many times I've done that workshop, and there's always tears. There's always somebody saying, wow, thank you for that. I don't know that I've ever been listened to that deeply.
How does that work? So I hear what you're saying, listening, like as you're talking,
right?
I'm listening for the underlying.
You're listening for the underlying things and reflecting it back. So what I heard, or what I think you're saying, is whatever. And it comes back to that idea that I believe that we really all have what we need inside of us already.
Yeah.
Like, your life, your circumstance better than anybody else does. If I can give you that listening ear and you can share with me, 9 times out of 10, you're going to find your own solutions. Right? Just in speaking the thing and having somebody actually hear it, it's like, wow, I feel better. And now I know what I need to do.
Sorry, most people just want to be heard. Do most people just want to be heard?
Yeah, people want to be heard. And too many of us want to give advice. Instead of realizing that people have their own answers within them. We just have to direct them so that they can find it.
So what I'm hearing you saying is the best thing we can do is to help these young boys understand that they already have the answers.
Yeah.
And we could just guide them to answering their own questions.
Yeah.
Wow. What would you what would you call that? Would you call that healing?
I think it's healing. It's healing for me. It's healing for me. And I think something that, the gender thing, I think a lot of times men want to fix things, right? Yeah. You got a honey, right?
Yes, I do.
And it's not just men, but a lot of people are wired that way. Like, I'm listening to you, but I'm really listening to either interject, how I think I can fix this for you, or, because you want to.
I get in trouble about that all the time.
Oh, you do?
Yeah,
all right.
For sure.
All right. Yeah.
And that you all as well, Mike, let me speak for myself, don't want to hear answers all the time.
They don't, no. A lot of times women don't want it. They don't want the answer. They just want to be heard. They just want.
What's the logic in that? What's the logic?
Well, here's the thing.
What's the logic in that?
I think it's good to say it at the beginning. Maybe you say okay, I just want to be heard, or I am looking for some solutions.
Okay.
Right. So state it up front with the thing, or you can ask. So now, do you just want me to hear you and listen to you, or do you want me to give you some solutions?
But shouldn't the goal be to get to the solutions though? Isn't that what I mean? The reason why you are at the state you're at is because you can't get to the solution. If you're at the solution, you wouldn't be in the state you're in.
Exactly.
So if we can get to the solution, wouldn't that be better than staying in the state that you don't want to be in?
Sure, but it's better if the person comes up with their solution rather than having your solution.
But what if it's helping? You don't see. This is women for you. You come on, help me out. Help me better. Help me be better. All right. If the answer is clear as day, and I'm pretty sure, are you one that wants to be heard more so than get to the solution?
It depends on what it is.
Okay.
Yeah. Sometimes and I'll say that now. I know myself enough to say, look, I need to get this out of my system.
Okay.
I just need to speak it. And sometimes in speaking it, I'll get my solution.
Okay.
And then sometimes I want to hear what you all have to say, you know, that can help me. Sometimes, but not all the time. Okay. But you know, just clarify up front.
Okay.
That's what I would say. Clarify up front.
I love it. I love it. So thinking about, you know, in a wrapping it up type of sense, the healing journey. All right. Mm-hmm. And you're saying, so you started this in the beginning because of, you know, the experiences that you experienced as a child. Mm-hmm. You've done all these different things. You wear so many hats. Right now, as you have all the hats on your head, what is the most difficult thing for you? Like, what is the most challenging thing with the work that you do, with everything that you do?
Oh my goodness. What is the most challenging thing? My challenge right now, I tell you, my personal life right now feels really good.
That's great.
It feels really good. I'm in a good place. There's advantages to aging. Let me just put it that way. Right?
Knowledge.
There's advantages. My challenge right now is what is happening in the world, you know, and what is mine to do. How do I engage with it and not let myself get pull the downward spiral, man, just pull down. I get into social media. I'll start reading, you know, what is happening, and I can get very, very anxious, very depressed. That's why I teach this stuff, so I can pull myself out. So that is my challenge. And, you know, I've become a bit of a warrior too, so I can, I've learned how to use my voice.
I like it.
And sometimes when, you know, if I let the anger get the best of me, then I'm not going to use my voice in the best way, right? So again, it's learning how to channel that in ways that are helpful and not causing more harm.
Yeah, and so I think that's a big thing. So if you think about the world that we're in, most of the chaos comes from because most people aren't doing those things. Most people are seeing the negative and responding negatively to the negative, and it's just compiling. So how could someone get, and again, I hope you know this is an educational episode. I want you to help the people that are watching. So you're saying you always wasn't there in the spot that you're in now. How did you, what allows you to be in that spot to be able to see that negativity and channel it, and I guess still move on in a positive in that warrior life?
Yeah, it's a constant, it's a constant struggle. I think people they're either going to fight, flight, freeze, right? You're going to go fight and sometimes make things worse, or they go the other way and they don't want to know about it. And I don't think either one of those things is helpful. So for me, there's like boundaries. You know, I'm only going to do social media so much. If I start writing something, you know, to make a response, sometimes I need to take a pause, you know, like metaphorically go back to that bathroom and just breathe. And do I really want to hit send on this? Do I really want to post this? There is a Viktor Frankl quote that is between stimulus and response, right? Between the thing that happens and what you do about it, there is a space. And in that space is your power to choose your response. And in that response is your freedom and your power. So sometimes you just got to take a step back, breathe, collect yourself, you know. Another thing is knowing what your values are, living in integrity with those values. One of my personal core values is wholeheartedness. And for me, wholeheartedness means courage. It means compassion. It means showing up for people. So before I hit send, before I say something, before I do something, I check myself. Is this in line with who I am and how I want to show up in the world?
Wow.
I don't always succeed.
I bet you don't. It's hard.
I don't.
It's hard.
But then you got to have people around you too, right? You have people that help you that can remember the truth about you and hold you to what you claim you are and who you want to be.
I love it. I love it. So one thing I do want to do as we're spinning off, I want to give you the opportunity to allow people to, someone that's out there that may be searching for peace or searching for how to find that even kill or whatever, you know what I mean? Just that space, that home. Or how do I get home? If somebody's interested in that, how can they find you and learn more, or how they can do that for themselves?
Oh, absolutely. They can, if they're interested in the spiritual aspect of what I do, that's cslocala.org. That's probably the best way right now. And then Circle Up is circleupcenter.org.
Okay.
Circle Up Center for Practical Peace Building.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I think it was a good one. Let's how what you're doing right now. All right. Like, subscribe, and comment. All right. So make sure we had a great episode, conversation, and you got some information on how to heal. And like I told you earlier, I truly enjoy hearing people's story and understanding how a person got from point A to point B. I think there's so much education that can happen if a lot more people would just sit down and say, let me study humans. There's nothing new under the sun, you know, and we have so many extraordinary people that came on planet Earth, and some still here, some left, but a lot of the framework, a lot of things that they've done is still here. And if you just take the time to learn more about them, I'm pretty sure it can help you out. So I say that to say, I hope that your story or what you shared today can be a light to someone else that watches, and they can be able to, help them maybe avoid a path that they may go down to find out what that home is for them. So again, I greatly appreciate you for coming on today. And one thing I do want, what do you have any remarks that you want to leave the people with before we tune off?
Well, I want to say, to just piggyback on what you just said, sometimes people will veer off, and just don't let that totally detour you. We all get off track. Yeah. We all get off track. Just have some compassion for yourself, get some help, and get yourself back on track.
Okay.
That's all. It's all right. Use it.
Yeah.
Use it.
Yeah. I love it. All right. I appreciate you. So we're going to do this. I know I said it again. I'll say it again. Like, subscribe, and comment. Also, a new July 25th, make sure you mark in your calendars. July 25th, our summer gala over at Church Hope at 7 p.m. Pretty sure the flyer is up right now, so making sure you buying your ticket or buying a table for that event. Another thing that I do want to share, if you're a business out there, all right? If you're a business and you want to get some more promotion for your business, the EL2A Podcast is about to start doing some business spotlights, and we can put your business up here and do some promotion for you. So reach out to us. You can reach out to us at our email, info@cutdifferent.org, and we can talk to you about more information about that. But other than that, again, like, subscribe, and comment. All right, but Cindy, again, appreciate you. And I'm going to have you, it's something special we do. That's your camera right there, right? And I'm going to have you, that one right there. That's your camera. You're going to look that camera in the eye, and you're going to close this episode. And what I would like you to do, if you knew the world is going to watch this episode, and you are the last voice that they could be able to hear, with the hopes that after they hear this voice that they would go try to find their home, or they would try to find healing for themselves, what was the last thing you would say to the world?
Wow. I would say be loved.
Yeah.
It's just that simple. Be loved.
Be loved. I love it. Hey, we'll see y'all next week.